Alright, so go in the Turn-In folder, the Classroom in a Book, Photoshop Lesson Files, Lesson 3, and go ahead and open up the End and Start files. So when they open up, they'll look like this, and your goal is to have it looking like this by the end of the session. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this section. We're going to be using a couple different tools to help you along your way. So the first tool that we're going to use is the Quick Selection tool. It looks like a paintbrush with a little dotted line. And let's go ahead and zoom in using Control Plus onto the sand dollar. So what the Quick Selection tool does basically, it just quickly selects what you want. So go ahead and click once on the sand dollar. If by some reason you accidentally click the red part and it selects the whole thing, all you have to do is hold Alt on your keyboard and deselect the red. You might have noticed there's a little minus sign on there now. Alright, you have now selected the sand dollar, so go ahead and zoom out, grab the Move tool, and we're going to move it to Part A. Now for some reason your little hole isn't white, you can just click over here to the color default and make sure it's black and white. Alright, deselect your sand dollar by Control D, and we're going to move on to the next shape, which is below and to your left, this object here. The next tool that we're going to use is the elliptical marquee tool. It's found on the left-hand side, it's the second one down. You might have to right-click on your mouse in order to find that option. So just click around real quick to see what the elliptical marquee tool does. It basically makes a oval shape. And your goal is to click around a couple times to try to get it as close as you can to the shape listed on the screen. And it's okay if you get some cut off, but as long as there's no white showing, you're okay. So once you've selected that, again, select the Move tool, zoom out, and move it to Part B. And then Control D to deselect. The next shell that we're going to do here is actually a piece of coral. So we're going to scroll down here to this piece of coral, and this is the trickiest one, but it's actually pretty easy if you take your time. So this time we're going to select the rectangular marquee tool on the left-hand side. We're going to draw a box around the coral, and then what we're going to do is select the magic wand, and we're going to go up at the top here to subtract from selection. We're going to click that. We basically want to subtract the white around it. So go ahead and click once on the white, and you'll notice now that around your coral you have little ants marching around, meaning that it's selected. So again, zoom out, take your Move tool, and you're going to move it to Part C. Control D to deselect. The next little piece that we're going to do is this little oyster here. So Control Plus to zoom in. And we're going to be looking at a couple different tools. So the first one we're going to use is the lasso tool. I just want you to try it out, try to get it as accurately as possible. And I'm just going to lasso this whole object. Now some of you might find it really difficult to use this, and it's a little difficult, but you're not going to get it really perfect. For some reason, if you clicked and messed up, you can just hit Control D. The next tool I want to kind of go over that's a little bit better is the polygonal lasso tool. You might have to right-click to find that option. And I like the polygonal lasso tool a lot more because you can click as you go along the edges of your object, and it's a lot more accurate. So just go ahead and click all the way around that object. and every now and then I click to create an anchor point on my object. So the thing to remember, wherever you started, you want to stop. If you notice, when I go to my very first point, there's a little circle that pops up. That means I'm going to close that object. So I'm going to close it. The ants are marching around that oyster now, and we're going to zoom out. And we're going to go ahead and place it in letter D. But you might have noticed that I can't fit it on letter D. So what I have to do is I have to rotate it. So Control T not only resizes an object, but you can also rotate it. I can rotate it at the top here by plugging in a number, or I can take it on one of the corners and just rotate it by hand. The first way I showed you is a lot more accurate. And then when you're done rotating, either hit the check mark or the Enter key to finish. Again, Control D to deselect. And then we're going to go ahead and move on to the shell. Zoom in to the shell. And we're going to use the magnetic lasso tool. And how this works is very similar to the polygonal lasso tool. I'm going to click on the edge. And what it does, it reads the pixels of your image. So if you go slowly, it'll read your image and create anchor points for you. You can also click and make your own points in case it, doesn't look the way you want it to. Let's just say you mess up. All you have to do is hit backspace until you get it the way you want it to look. So go ahead and slowly go around your shell. And then same thing with the polygonal lasso tool. When there's a circle, it means to close your object, so go ahead and click that. The ants are marching around your shell. Select the Move tool, move it up. Control D to deselect. The last object that we're going to do here is this little nail. So we're going to go ahead and zoom in. And we're going to go back to the elliptical marquee tool. And this time, we're going to put our mouse right in the center of our nail. We're going to hold Shift, and if you notice, instead of an oval, it's now a circle. So go ahead and let go of your mouse. Go ahead and let go of your Shift key. Take the Move tool. Oops, not the Move tool. If you mess up, always edit, step backward. You're still on the elliptical marquee tool. You can move it over and see if it fits. If it doesn't fit, you can go ahead and do the same thing again. Place it in the center, hold your Shift key, get about the size that you want it to, move it over, and once you have the ants marching around that, you can zoom out. And we're going to go ahead and copy this and place it on our windows. So in order to copy, we're going to use our hotkeys, Control C and Control V. If you notice, there's a new layer, layer 1. So I'm going to take my Move tool now, move my layer over, and our nail's way too big, so we're going to resize it using Control T, and hold Shift to make it smaller. The reason why we hold Shift is to make sure that all of our proportions are constrained. And then when I like it, I'm going to hit the check mark. Now, in order for us to get the rest of the nails on there, I can hit Control V again, but I end up with that big nail. If I want the same size, I can go Edit, Step Backward. I can right-click on Layer 1, and then I can duplicate that layer. It doesn't matter what name it is today, but they copy right on top of each other, so all I have to do is move it. So again, right-click, duplicate layer, I don't care what name it is today, and move it over. And just continue that process until you have 4 nails on your window. Just like that. The very last step, what you're going to do is you're going to use the crop tool, and you are going to crop to where just a little bit of the white is showing. And when you're done cropping, you can either hit enter or the check mark. And this is your final piece.